live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I am doing fantastic because it's a Tuesday, and we're here on a Tuesday. We're doing Ruffino and Joe on a day that we don't usually do it because we wanted to give you, the listener, even more content to preview some more of these Week 2 games. So I'm fired up, of course, Blake. Even though the slate's not super sexy, it feels like it's going to be one of those weeks where there's plenty of chaos.
We say that every time people say that.
Yep.
Oh, it's not that great. And then y'all, here's the thing. You all complain about not having college football.
Yes.
And now you have college football. Oh, the slate's not that great. And then all of a sudden, some outright chaos happens. None of us thought that Florida State was going to win, which, by the way, Florida State fans, you're making it unbearable to like you.
I know I try not to let the few that are obnoxious and this goes for all the fan bases that are angry at us for the way that we talked about their teams. The true listeners of the show, the ones that come back every single week, know that it's just how we are. When we're picking against the team, we're going to go hard at you or we're going to go hard against you, whatever it is. Those that are cordial about it.
Well, we could ride you. We could glaze everybody and not be real.
Pause.
I mean, no. I mean, we could. I mean, what do you want us to do? How about this? Give us your predictions. Happened to us today. All right, give us your predictions then. Funny how that shit just stops when you say, give me your prediction.
By the way, speaking of fan bases rallying around us, we snuck ourselves into the South Carolina hype video for the upcoming season. By the way, I need more people to please DM me at Joe DeLeone or at Ruffino and Joe Show. If you guys spot us in these videos, they don't reach out to us. They don't ask us to use our stuff. They're supposed to. We had a little bit of a teaser. We're going to be in something. We can't say what, but you're supposed to ask for a release and for permission to use our voices. We don't care. We're happy to be a part of it. But if you guys spot that stuff, I'd love to know. That was really cool that somebody mentioned that in the chat yesterday, and I went and tracked it down.
All I'm going to say is Big Ten Blake is always here. That's all I'm going to say. Call me Big Ten Blake.
Well, it was South Carolina. What are you talking about?
I know, but you were talking about things that we're going to be doing. Just call me Big Ten Blake.
I understand what you're saying.
But shout out to everybody at South Carolina. And what's funny is exactly what we said came to pass. That run game is going to be absolutely lethal out there at South Carolina. But Joe, we got a lot we got to get to. We'll get to Illinois and Duke. We'll preview that. Oregon versus Oklahoma State. We'll preview that one as well. Ole Miss and Kentucky. Can Kentucky do something that they did a season ago? I guess we can't say that they can't because, Joe, they were god-awful a season ago, and they were able to knock off the Ole Miss Rebels. So we'll break that down here as well tonight.
I'm reluctant to talk about that game because I think I'm going to have basically the same cookie cutter take as last year where I said that Ole Miss was going to smoke them. And then Lane Kiffin found a way to shock us by putting together one of the worst game plans that he's had at Ole Miss in the last 3 years. Kentucky should get their asses kicked. I'm just going to leave it as simple as that. They should get their asses kicked. I'm not going to psych myself out because they played like crap last season.
Well, here's the thing. We had craziness all around college football a season ago. The guys that made the plays a season ago for Kentucky are no longer there. Dane Key had a big day for Nebraska in their Friday night game. Barry and Brown, for all intents and purposes, had a really big game as well. So I don't know if they'll be able to do that. But there is something that Ole Miss struggled with against Georgia State that we might need to get into that Kentucky can definitely lean on here. But Joe, we got to start off with this. Is last night, right after we were live, North Carolina and TCU took on one another, and it was an outright blowout. And it was the regime of your boy Bill Belichick in college football. And Joe, just like what happened with Arch Manning this past week, everybody kind of a little bit, in my opinion, overreacted. But Bill Belichick in North Carolina, with 70 new players on that roster, got blown out last night by TCU. Your thoughts on this situation with Belichick in North Carolina?
Yeah, this is outright embarrassing. This is a joke what this team is. I think that we need to treat Bill Belichick in North Carolina the same way that haters of Colorado treated that team when they were struggling. This team is a joke. They are a lot worse footing than what Colorado had, by the way, when they first started out. Like I said when we did the preview, I brought up how there's really nothing to grab onto. There's no certainty. It's a giant question mark. Their whole team's transfers. All their top guys left. You have a coach who's never coached the college game trying to get his players to lock in. And while he's trying to get those players to lock in, he is the biggest circus in the sport because he's got a 24-year-old girlfriend who keeps
on the sidelines.
On the sidelines. I don't know when that was, if it was before, during, or after. You have one of the most ridiculous dramatic headlines that it just continuously resurfaces every single week because she's outspoken. She does ridiculous things. It's a distraction. You have a head coach who, when he was with the Patriots, preached to his players staying focused and not allowing off the field issues to cause
Cincinnati.
And lo and behold, Blake, this off field distraction has caused problems for UNC. That team had no effort. It had no life. They were out schemed. They were out coached. I don't think any of those guys wanted to be there. That looked like a team that was divided because they were not focused, plain and simple.
Well, I did notice TCU's media team took a couple of laps on this one, and guys like Skip Bayless said, oh, my God, this is going to be fantastic. And then the next 3.5 hours was an absolute beating. They had no answers. They have no answers. Here's the truth. Let's get down to the truth. You can't handle the truth. You got to give him time. You're going to have to give him time. He's got 70 new players. And I wonder how they're – look, I agree with you. He is the biggest circus right now on that team. I mean, based off of what he does. But I got to be real with you. I don't know if North Carolina can ride this ship. And let me explain why. Joe, they're giving a lot of their TV revenue to basketball. So how are you going to pay to get players, really good players, to come in there? Here's the thing that I think everybody misses. Bill Belichick, while at New England, had the best player of all time. It's still about Jimmys and Joes. Yeah, he can have little Julian Edelman. Edelman didn't stink. Brother, their best team was when they had Randy Moss and 2 Hall of Famers on defense. They didn't stink. They had Jimmys and Joes. The biggest lie about the Belichick era in New England was, oh, they have a guy at Waffle House catching passes. No, they had a Hall of Fame, arguably one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver of all time in Randy Moss, some would believe, if not Jerry Rice. You had the best quarterback of all time. You had multiple Hall of Famers defensively. So the biggest lie is that he had dudes at Waffle House that were in the slot. Another lie is that they can't ride this ship. It's game one. It's game one. Joe, I saw Ed Orgeron, as an example, get blown out by Mississippi State and then beat the SEC East champion literally the next. You're going to have to give them time. You're going to have to let them build this. It's going to be bad. It's going to get bad. I thought they looked a lot better with Max Johnson at quarterback, if we're being honest. They just did not look like that they cared. And I don't know if Bill really cared. I didn't think that he thought it would go like this, to be real with you. And here's the truth. All your antics and how short you are with the media, not giving a depth chart and all that, that's funny and all when you're winning. When you're getting your doors blown off, it's not funny anymore. I think that there are a couple of things that can be true. Joe, how is he supposed to replace this team with 70 players? How? Like, I mean, like, what are they supposed to do there? We did a preview of them, and I said, listen, this is going to take time. Maybe they can be good in their secondary, but other than that, I don't think they're going to be great. And they're not great. They weren't great. But we need to give this team time because they can surprise some people. And when you have good coaches, you got to watch people develop. Don't overreact over a week in a new regime under a new coach.
Look, I'm fine with preaching the message of not overreacting because we say that a lot about a lot of teams that have early struggles, a lot of players that have early struggles. Things can change after a week. But we have to pay close attention to the way that team played. They gave up by halftime. There was no effort to be had in the second half.
Well, in the first play in the third quarter, they gave up a 75-yard dive for a touchdown. Right.
I think that the issue that I have with this team is it comes from the way that he finished in New England. He stunk in the last couple of years as a coach in New England because his talent evaluation that was once a huge asset of his. He was the general manager for the Patriots for a very long time as well as the head coach. One of the few in the sport that has capably done that. After enough time, that team did not have the bodies. He swung and missed on so many picks. His last draft class, I'm pretty sure most of that last draft class isn't on the team anymore. They just cut Cole Strange. Yes.
You remember the whole McVay Strange just went. Remember that whole video? Right.
Tyquan Thornton, not there anymore. Pierre Strong Jr., not there anymore.
The only one there is Kayshon Boutte.
Right, and that was a UDFA. And I think that what's now apparent is that his ability to build a roster, which is even more important in college football because he's the sole decision maker and he is not going to have anyone say stepping in. There's no owner that's going to be stepping in. It's on his shoulders. You also have to find value when you're in a school like North Carolina that normally isn't found because all the big schools are taking the big name 5-stars. They're not going to get any 5-stars at this UNC program. I think one thing was apparent that they do not have a roster that is built to succeed as a unit. I don't think that they have the bodies. I think that this is going to be a sub 500 team this year. But I do give them the benefit of the doubt to figure it out in year 2. Don't have any expectation for this team to win more than 5 games.
Again, I just want to see how they do. I don't want to underreact and I don't want to overreact because I don't think I don't think he's a bad coach. But I also, look, the truth of it is, since Tom's walked out the door, they have not been good. He's not been good. I mean, we got to call it like we see it. Look, man, I think the biggest thing for me was not that they got blown out. The biggest thing for me is that they gave no real effort. And that's a team that, like, you can't rally behind. That's what I'm more worried about than anything. He better get on their ass or do something because, Joe, they gave up. To your point, the only person I thought that didn't give up were both of the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like Gio Lopez, I mean, he was giving it everything he got. And Max Johnson took some really big shots and made some really big throws for them. You're right. They do not have the Jimmies and Joes. They just don't. And let me say this. This is the part that I would say in some of these power conferences, Joe, with TV revenue that are spending money on other places and other directions, what is North Carolina supposed to do now? What are they going to do? Because you can't say that you're giving him adequate. Let's talk about what the offseason really was. Joe, we are really close to one of the best general managers in the sport right now in college football. Joe, they were getting TV revenue deals done in January. You're not giving him that level of money. I mean, you're asking the Oakland A's basically to go back and re-sign Jason Giambi. You can't do that. So they're going to have to find out a unique way. Same thing happened to Northwestern, by the way. And Tulane smacked that rear end. I mean, you got to put some of this together when you don't have the TV revenue and these guys are leaving and you're doing it with other sports. Things are not going to go the way that you want them to go. By the way, if you're Greg Sankey and you watched that game last night, are you hitting the panic? Are you hitting the brakes? No. I hit the brakes.
Yeah, I'm not Greg. The basketball team wasn't even that good this year. So what value is actually being
He loves
created?
North Carolina. He loves the state. He loves the state. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. Let's move on here. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Every episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. I was over on FanDuel today. All these games we're going to talk to you about. We have the point spreads for all of these games. Sponsored by our good friends over at FanDuel. If you have the discretionary income, go over there and place a couple of bets. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Go to FanDuel.com/RG. Joe, let's get right into this. Everyone, do us a favor. Hit the share button. Hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Illinois takes on Duke this weekend. The line on FanDuel is Illinois -2.5. Joe, when you look at this game of the Fighting Illini going in here facing the Duke Blue Devils with a new quarterback and Mensa, you see it going in what direction?
I have been seesawing like crazy on predicting this game because coming into the season, I had a lot of high hopes for Illinois. I thought that this Illinois squad brought back veterans at key positions that were going to help them succeed this season. Their defensive line is talented and it's stout. Their secondary has premier players like Xavier Scott, who's going to get drafted very highly in 2026. Luke Altmeyer could do some great things this year, being as experienced as he is. Experienced quarterbacks matter, as we learned that theme in week 1. But the craziest thing, the more that I dig into Duke, is how much of like a mirror image these two teams are of one another. They're just the North and South version of one another, the ACC and the Big Ten version of one another. Two academic schools with good quarterbacks, with a couple of nice weapons on offense, and really talented defenses that are well coached by defensive-minded guys. You've got Wesley Williams on that Duke defense, who I'm a very big fan of. You've got Jalen Rivers in the secondary. There are some super underrated athletes. Sorry, Chandler Rivers. You got some super underrated athletes that can do some damage against whoever they play. I think with all that in mind, Blake, Illinois favored 2.5 on FanDuel. I might be taking Duke to cover. I might be liking the fact that this Duke team is at home, and I might like the fact that Darian Mensa is the more physically gifted quarterback in this battle.
I do think that you bring up an interesting point. Which quarterback can make the play that will lead their team to a victory? You know, Luke Altmeyer has been a guy that I think a lot of us have looked at and said, oh, man, that's a really good play. That's a really good throw. Oh, man, that's some really good anticipation. That's some really good awareness. But against these high-profile teams, he hasn't been able to put enough together to be able to take them over that hump. They had a really good season a year ago. They faced off against, Western Illinois, I think it was.
Yep.
In week 1, they blow them out. Altmeyer almost had the same amount of incompletions as he did touchdowns. He was very effective. They ran the ball very effective. They ran for 209 yards against Western Illinois. They were very physical up front. All of that, we know that. But Joe, I remind you of a couple of things. When we're early in the season, we don't know what we don't know yet. But I still think that there's things that we can point out. And this is why I am going to get the little pencil out and do what I've been wanting to do to you, pause, all season, and we're only in week 2. Not so fast, my friend, on the Duke Blue Devils. Let me tell you why. Joe, they gave up 163 yards rushing to Elon. 163. And Bret Bielema, even going back to the days of Wisconsin, going back to the days at Arkansas, and even going into the days against Illinois, or with Illinois, Joe, they want to get this power run game going and hit this play action on you. My question is, not saying Duke can't stop it. My question is if Elon can come in and do that to you, can Illinois? One thing that we know about Bret Bielema is that he wants to be physical, and he will go 3 yards in a cloud of dust and hit a play action on you over and over and over and over and over again. I think that Illinois could be in a situation where they go in there to kind of get their legs up under them by just running the football and playing some ball control. But ultimately, Joe, I think that could win in the game because you have a Duke team that gave up a lot of rushing yards last week against Elon.
Aiden Lofrey is the running back who, for them against Western Illinois, was super productive. He had over 100 yards, and I would expect that they're going to try and get him going early. Here's the only counter I would have to that. I understand it's important to keep bringing this up when we do these previews for the next 3 weeks. We don't know what we don't know, because week 1 is actually, if anyone pays close attention to college football knows this, week 1 is never the truest indicator of how a team is going to be for the rest of the season. It answers a lot of questions for us, but you become the best version of your team going from week 1 to week 2. And after week 3 is when you can understand what the identity of these rosters are. So we're still in this feeling out period that's happening right now. Everybody's trying to make adjustments. Whoever does it the best is going to be the teams that string together success. I bring this up to say, I don't like using the Elon game or the Western Illinois game as context for how these teams are going to look, because Western Illinois is 10 times worse of an FCS team than Elon is. Elon's a really good CAA team. I played against them all the time when I was in college.
Sure.
They're one of the better teams on the cusp.
Illinois is a lot better than Elon.
Oh, okay, I understand that. I'm just trying to point out here that Illinois didn't play anyone that's going to tell us what their weaknesses are. They weren't challenged. There was zero challenging that was happening.
But neither did Duke.
I know, and I get that.
Good enough for you to, Joe, you go back and watch that game. They're getting pushed around up front by Elon.
I get that. They gave up a couple of big plays in the run game. They made a couple of critical errors and mistakes that I think that really held them back. But I think that with the talent that they have on their defensive line and knowing what Manny Diaz is able to get out of his team, I feel like I would rather, if I'm Duke, have issues in week 1 and then be able to address them in week 2.
Fair.
They didn't play Illinois in week 1. If they played Illinois in week 1 and they had these same problems, then the game's going to go in a completely different way. I think that there is a capability for adjustment here to be had with Duke. I think to get back to my main point, Darian Mensah is the guy that I'm leaning on in this game. I know that he had a turnover against Elon, but I thought that the rest of his throws were phenomenal. He was dishing it to the degree that we were expecting that he could. And all the flashes we saw at Tulane, I think, are starting to really come to fruition.
He went 27 of 34 for 389 and 3 touchdowns. They also had a performance by one of their backs for 25, 159 and 2. Yeah, I mean, listen, from the Duke perspective of this, I'm with you. In college football, a really good quarterback can just take over, right? And I think that he can do that. We've seen him go into Oklahoma and keep them within a score, right? We've seen him do some really special things in the limited time that we've seen him. I'm with you on this. I do think that he is going to be able to make a lot of really good plays. He's a really good quarterback. And I look at him and say that I'm not saying that he's going to be the only reason that they win. But, Joe, I do wonder, when you have a quarterback battle like this one, Altmeyer's got to go out there and make a statement. And he doesn't have to go like 25 of 31 and 350 yards and 4 scores. That's not what I'm saying. But the statistics can lie to you in reference to how a game is played. This could easily come down to what quarterback makes the play at the end. If you are asking me that this game is really close and you have a situation of what quarterback makes the play, I do think it's going to be Mensah. The thing that I worry about, I know that you talk about Manny Diaz, who you know that I love a lot. We were so high on him when he went to Duke and thought that he would do some really good things there. We hated when Miami did what they did to him, and then he goes to Penn State, they dominate, goes to Duke, they've been really good. I just need listen, you're right. We don't know what we don't know. And this whole thing that happened with Elon could be completely fugazi. And we're just looking at, oh, my God, what they were playing around with them. They're playing around with their food. That could 1,000% happen. But I understand what Bret Bielema's game plan is, too. And he is going to go 3 yards in a cloud of dust and make you stop it. And they're going to go play action off of that. That's the thing that holds me back here. I haven't, mentally made a pick on who I'm going with here. But I need to see Duke be a little bit more consistent early in the year in stopping the run. Not saying that they can't. That's not, if I came off that way, I apologize. I'm not saying that they can't, but it just gets to a point where, look, man, you let an FCS team run for 170 yards on you, that you kind of got pushed around a little bit. And Joe, here's the thing that I like to point out. This is week 1. How are you not enthusiastic to play against somebody else? How are you not ready to go? And so if this were like week 10 and you're just kind of lollygagging around, all right, okay, all right. Even if it's week 2, all right, come on, let's get this going. It's week 1. And that's when I thought I would see on tape, I thought I'd see a little bit more enthusiasm from that front 7 from Duke. And again, could be a complete non-starter. They might be able to go in there and stop the run, but I kind of lean a little on the other side. Not made a pick yet, but I think Illinois could get this one done.
Yeah, the way that Duke started as slow as they did, I think, is definitely a concern of mine. They let Elon hang in there with them up until halftime, and then they separated eventually. Yeah, it was way too long that they let them stick around, and there was just a couple of silly miscues that kept Elon in the game, and then eventually once they locked in.
Well, let me ask you this, and you answer this. Do you think that was because I thought the same thing. Do you think it's because you have a brand new quarterback and things were just going to be a little slow early?
Well, that's how I'm perceiving it. I think that the indication where Duke is going to be able to quickly adjust is the fact that they went in the locker room at halftime, they identified what the problems were, and they ended up smoking them in the second half, and it looked exactly like it was supposed to look when you're facing a team like Elon. I'm going to keep just contending with this. I really came away impressed already with what Darian Mensah was doing. I really, really think that this is
he can really spin it.
Yeah, it's going to be the start of a really special season for Darian Mensah. And it comes away with a game like this, your first real challenge against the defense in your career, where you had some tough games when you were at Tulane, but this is going to be your first real challenge going against Bret Bielema. Can you break through? We saw Bret Bielema cause a lot of problems for Dylan Raiola and other quarterbacks. Yeah, young dudes that they went up against, and they put them into a blender. So can Mensah overperform what he is stepping into, this challenge that he's stepping into that's going to be super difficult?
Mensah's the best thrower of all of those, though, that he did it to.
Yes.
I mean, so I thought they did make some really good plays on the outside, though. I'll give him that. All right. Joe, we have a $20 super chat here from Marshall, who says, early look, but curious how you guys view the A&M Notre Dame matchup next weekend. It seems like a toss-up to me. A&M has some more weapons on the offense this year, and Notre Dame got not getting Love more involved tilts the matchup in the favor to A&M to me. Let me just say this, Joe, before you go, and thank you for the super chat.
Thank you.
Buddy, I don't know. Let me start it like this, because when I'm going to say this, it's going to come off like I'm saying Notre Dame's going to lose. It's not what I'm saying. Buddy, they got weapons on the outside, brother. Now, the Henry kid for UTSA ran all over them. But Concepcion, dog, the weapons that they have on offense, Joe, all right, I'm telling you, brother. I'm telling you, Concepcion is a dog.
Okay, but I learned a lot more about Notre Dame against Miami than I did from UTSA versus Texas A&M.
You don't think Concepcion's a dude?
24. I think he's a great player, but giving up 24 points to UTSA does not scare me. I know that as we're talking about here, you're not going to derive a lot of takeaways from how you perform in the first couple of weeks of the season, but I think that Notre Dame has a better chance going into that Texas A&M game to have already identified what their errors were and to quickly improve off of them. That's going to be Texas A&M's one of their earliest tests.
Let me tell you how they're going to attack you. You ready? If a true freshman and Tony from the slot can give you those problems, they're going to Concepcion a lot. You know, Joe, it's going to be, I'm just telling you.
Well, inversely, Notre Dame's offense is going to be a lot more productive if they gave up what they did to UTSA. So I give the edge to Notre Dame because they're at home in this situation.
Here's the game plan for Notre Dame. Run the ball 60 times.
Yeah. Get the ball to Jeremiah Lovemore. They can't get cute with that shit like they did against
Miami. That Henry kid ran all over them. I mean, defensively, I know Elko's baby is his defense. Joe, they got dominated.
I think they thinned out at defensive tackle. I really
You
do.
think?
I don't think that they have anywhere near the same level of talent that
No, they don't.
last year.
And brother, they got pushed around. But I'm just telling you, okay, you probably Notre Dame can win this game without a doubt. But man, they're gonna give you problems defensively. I'm just telling you. All right. Joe, Oregon versus Oklahoma State on FanDuel. The Oregon Ducks are minus 28.5 against Oklahoma State. When you look at this game on Saturday, your thoughts on how this one's going to go down?
Yeah, I might take Oregon to cover on FanDuel for this game. Oregon played Montana State, which is a top 3 FCS program. No conclusions to be drawn from that. But, dude, I think that this team is comically talented, man. Amari Washington, an underclassman on this defensive line, looks fantastic. He's forklifting dudes. He's making plays in the backfield. He had 1.5 tackles for loss in that game. Going up against, by the way, people want to act like it's nothing. Montana State's offensive line is better than most G5 offensive lines. A lot of teams will pick up the phone and try and get Montana State kids to come play for them. They produce some really, really good football players. They're one of the few FCS programs that does it. So for him to dominate the way that he did was quite notable. And I think that Dante Moore really started to show us what he can be as a passer. The weapons that they have available is going to be a talking point for us, which I'll save. But DeCorian Moore showed us some glimpses. Kenyon Sadiq at tight end showed us some glimpses. And Malik Benson as well showed us what he can be as that secondary or third option. The biggest reason, Blake, why I'm high on Oregon to dominate in this game, I was so unimpressed by Oklahoma State rewatching their game against UT Martin. They don't have a lot going on for them, man. It was a 13-point game with 6 minutes to go against UT Martin. Hicks, their running back, Caleb Hicks, 2.7 yards per carry, only 56 rushing yards. As a team, they went over 100 yards, but they were scratching and clawing to get to that mark. They didn't outrush you.
They didn't outrush UTM.
They couldn't move the ball on the ground. And the biggest thing that concerns me, we're talking about teams getting pushed around by FCS teams. Watching that game was nuts. Seeing the level of penetration that was generated by UT Martin on passing plays, on run plays. They'd get a big play, and then they'd go 2 steps backward because they gave up penetration and ended up being like a 2-yard loss on a rushing play. That's why they had so many problems. I do not think that Oklahoma State offensive line is going to be able to hold up at all against that athletic Oregon front. I think this could be a really long day for this Oklahoma State team because plain and simple, this is not your old Mike Gundy team. This is not your usual Mike Gundy team that's got athletes everywhere. Mm-hmm. This is a shell of what they once were.
It's so wild, Joe, that a year and a half ago, or no, actually, not a year and a half ago, in early August of 2024, my brother and I headed to Dallas. And a kid committed on AYS. His name was DeCorian Moore. And the first play that I see because I was late getting to the Oregon game and turning it on. And the first play that I see is a reverse DeCorian Moore. Made me so proud. I'm just going to throw that out there. However, you know what else it made me look at? 12 guys carried the football in this offense on Saturday. They showed so many things. Joe, 12 players, 12 in different formations, in different situations, carried the football. Now, I know some of those, it's not going to happen every week, and some of those were guys getting reps at the end of the game. 9 of it wasn't. Guys, they gave 9 people a carry while starters were still in. That is insane to me. Now, I thought we brought this up yesterday of quote-unquote first-time starters. I thought Moore was the quote-unquote best. we talked about, and we didn't put them in that category. They just looked clean. They looked good. They looked like a national title contender up front. You talked about Washington, but not even him. Uyunglele had 2 sacks. They were all over the place. And, we were talking about this when we were talking about Duke and some of these other teams. Joe, they look fired up to play football. They look like that they wanted to be there. Sadiq is one of the most difficult mismatches that you have literally on the planet. He's literally leaping over dudes all over the place. But the thing for me is we can talk about Oregon all the live long day. I think that they are a playoff contender, a Big Ten contender. Hell, if Dan Lanning, this could be the year. Joe, that by the way, they threw out 3 true freshmen at corner, rotating with the first team. They got depth. This defense might be the one that Dan Lanning's like, okay, we're here. Based off of all of the talent that we saw on Saturday. Oklahoma State gave up 116 yards rushing. They got outrushed by UTM. Outrushed. Joe, I want to be careful here based off of what we just saw last week with Florida State and Alabama. Like, you always just want to be careful because you can be humbled.
Nah, screw it.
But screw it.
F it, we ball, man.
If the Oregon team that is locked in and focused is going to do something special on Saturday, and I got to be real with you. If I'm Oregon, I think I go in there and make a statement, as crazy as this sounds, like, hey, man, y'all talked about Penn State. Y'all kept talking about Ohio State all offseason. Y'all just let this out in the dust. You didn't even talk about us. And, Joe, I got to be real with you. On Saturday, I know it's Montana State, but the way that they gave effort, the way that they gave – it looked like a team that was pissed off based off of what happened in the playoff a season ago. I need a couple of questions to be answered with them, though. Wide receiver play needs to be answered. We're going to see how they react to some of this. I saw a team that I thought looked pissed off and wanted to make a wrong that was a right that was a wrong that was right. And if you're going to play with that level of effort, you're going to dominate a lot of teams. And Washington might be the best interior defensive lineman in the Big Ten.
Oh, yeah. The 320-pound kid who's one of the most athletic players in the country. That kid
he shook a guard. Did you see it? The tackle
moves like he's 280. He moves like a linebacker. It's hilarious how explosive this kid is. I think he had like a 36-inch vertical or something at 320 pounds, which is, I mean, that's insane. That's like a wide receiver vertical.
So basically,
he's Thanos. The effort that you just talked about, I think, showed up too, where they get a blocked punt to start early on in the game.
Yeah, they had 2 blocked punts. That was my next point. Continue.
You don't need to be doing all that against an FCS team. That to me shows a team that has will, that has focus, and that has intent. I wrote down the point that you brought up here, which was, is there any chance that this could be a Florida State spot? Is there any chance that this could be out of nowhere Florida State, Oklahoma State in this circumstance shocks them? And I wrote down Oklahoma State typically shows up when we least expect it, especially recently. 2 years ago, they were really messy at the beginning of the year. Really messy. Then out of nowhere, a guy named Ollie Gordon wins the Doak Walker Award, and he rushes for 2,000 yards. And they have this prolific season where they were one of the chaos teams in college football. I don't see that with this Oklahoma State team. Unless there's an Ollie Gordon buried on your team, I don't know where it's coming from. They just don't have that same degree of explosiveness, like I said earlier, that can threaten a team. They were chipping away and dragging ass to get through the game against UT Martin in order to win that football game. I am going to bring back up a point that you brought up, and it's one that we brought up this offseason that I felt like I got a lot of pushback for whenever I said it. I kept emphasizing that Oregon lost a number of players defensively. They lost guys to the NFL draft this past year. But this might be their best defense and most talented one under Dan Lanning, because all of the 5 stars that they recruited over the past couple of years are now playing. They're not just transfers. They're not guys that they're bringing in. Derek Harmon was awesome. He was great. He was a really good player. Jamari Caldwell was a really good player. But now you've got Uyunglele, and you've got Washington, and you've got the chances for Rushing to rotate in and Bear Alexander to contribute to the group. There are so many 5-stars on this defense that are flying around like bats out of hell, causing problems. And I think that this is, as you just said, making a statement. You get Oklahoma State, you boat race them, you go home, you move on to the next game. I think that they're out for blood against every team that they're playing.
With the 2 block punts, I felt like I was watching early Kirby against an FCS opponent.
Seriously.
Kirby, as he's getting long in the tooth, kind of, I don't want to say like, we're just, Kirby's still highly intense. People forget what Kirby did a decade ago. They'd play Rudy Putek, and he would go after every punt. Literally. It's the most Kirby thing of all time. Literally. Like, it used to happen all the time. Joe, it's the effort, man. I feel like what I saw on Saturday was a team, again, that was pissed off and wanted to make even the smallest of statements, but internally, I don't think that they cared about the outside noise. And that's what a lot of these flashy, quote-unquote, teams, like Alabama, like felt flashy going into this one, and they got punched in the mouth. What I felt like with Oregon was, yeah, they got all the flash, glitz, and glamour. Boy, that felt like a gritty team.
Yeah.
And I get it's Montana. Look, it's Montana State. Yeah, I get that. But the way that they moved, you better go watch them. Joe, I got to be honest with you. I put a lot of stock. I know, again, you're going to have to get – you can make a statement in a week 1 against a nobody. You can. I'm going to keep saying this. He threw for 506 touchdowns against Rudy Putek. So you're going to have to sit here and tell me that you can't make statements. They looked really good, man. A lot of Oregon stock being bought right here.
A lot of the college football world doesn't follow FCS football. But the first podcast I ever started was an FCS football podcast, and me and my roommate.
You love football.
Well, seriously, it was how I first started hosting, and it opened the door for other things. We still do it, and we get a lot of viewership off it. So I keep close track of FCS football. I want to be very clear here. This is important. Montana State is not your run-of-the-mill FCS team. They will beat most G5 programs that they square up with. They recruit well, they develop well. To beat them as badly as they did is a pretty strong indicator, because the Montana State, South Dakota State, North Dakota States of the world, the Montanas of the world, will show up and shock people. At Montana, I know it's a completely different program, but Montana beat Washington not that long ago. We watch these big Power 4 programs overlook the top 4 FCS teams all the time, and they lose to those teams. To do that against Montana State, I don't think it's going to get enough recognition. That requires some serious focus, and it requires some serious aggressiveness. That, to me, is a sign of what this Oregon team can do that most people will not give them credit for.
Could be very well true here, Joe. Very well true. Any thoughts on Dante Moore's performance?
I thought it looked good. I don't think that I want to see how now he's got a P4 opponent. Can he maintain the same level of consistency? I thought that he was super erratic when he was at UCLA, and I felt like I saw a calmer version of him because he's playing in an offense that is going to set up his skills to just really flourish.
You hit the nail on the head. He knew where he wanted to go. You saw a quarterback who knew what coverage that the other team was in. The timing, the anticipation. I mean, he had some really good throws. He's got to find a number 1, and it can't be his tight end. Not in these big games with these fast safeties and fast backers that he's going to face off against. You can't do that. He's got to find a number 1.
I don't disagree with that. They do need to figure out can DK Moore step up to the plate and be the big weapon that we think he can be as a true freshman? Can he have a Ryan Williams type season? And can Kenyon Sadiq play up to the expectation too that he's one of the best tight ends in the country? That kid is an athletic freak.
Yeah.
But he's got to catch the ball more consistently. He can't have as many drops. Maybe stop trying to jump over dudes, focus more on catching the football, but he's super gifted.
He reminds me of Antonio Gates in a way.
Dude, he's not built like your normal tight end. Like that kid looks like a
Antonio Gates was 6'3",
yeah,
6'4". Like he wasn't big.
I think
Antonio Gates was not a big tight end. Go look it up.
he does look like Antonio Gates, though.
Yeah, he looks exactly like Antonio Gates. He looks like a small power forward. How tall was Antonio Gates as you're Googling this?
6'4".
Okay, so I was off an inch. That's exactly what she said.
I was just about to say.
Okay. But I would take, if you made me take this, 28.5 points is a lot for me, and you know how conservative I am. If you made me, I would eat the points because I think they're going to roll over.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on this game, but if I had to pick one, I might
go to FanDuel. You can do it.
Yeah, on FanDuel.
All right, Joe, let's wrap it up here. Ole Miss.
Wait, we got a big super chat. I don't mean to cut you off. We got a $50 super chat.
Oh, good gracious,
Thank you, Bam.
Bam with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, do y'all think Penn State is better this year? Penn State fan here. Well, Joseph, Penn State was in my national title game this year when we did our playoff projections. Thank you, Bam, again for the massive super chat here. I get who they were playing in Nevada. I get it. However, Kyron Hudson looked good. Trevor Pena looked good. Dennis Sutton, he is so special. He is so special. I think Penn State's one of the top 2-3 teams in the country. They're my Big Ten champion, Joe.
I hope that when they get their first big matchup, that they can really flex their muscles.
Yes.
Because to your point, all of these guys that they have on this team that were big recruits, that have shown potential, that were high-quality prospects, all of these things, all of those guys already look like they've taken a step forward. So that is, to answer that question very directly, if all of these key playmakers that have been slowly progressing take an even bigger step forward like they looked like they did against Nevada, then yes, this team's better.
Well,
there's no reason why they can't win the Big Ten. There's no reason why they can't get to a national championship.
Well, they easily could do that. But hold on. Outside of James Franklin's comments of him saying they asked him what he does after games, he says, I go down to my basement. I talk to my family for 20 minutes. I sit there in a hoodie and boxer shorts and watch football for the rest of the day. And he said, I apologize for giving y'all that image, but you asked me what I did, and I just told you the truth. Outside of him saying that, Joe, I went back and I listened to his post game, and then I know I'm a sick bastard. I listened to Penn State post game with James Franklin, but he brought up twice of how they wanted to establish the run and how some of these big runs came on the sense of you have Pena and Hudson dominating corners and safeties, and those run lanes opening up as if they needed better a rushing attack. The only thing I would say is there were a lot of drives against Nevada that you got to go get 7. You got to stop kicking that many field goals. Be more aggressive with this wide receiver core. All right.
Yep.
Joe, Ole Miss versus Kentucky, arguably the game a season ago that kept the Rebels out of the playoffs here, Joe, as they did beat the Georgia Bulldogs, but did fall up short to one team, that being the Kentucky Wildcats. Joe, Ole Miss coming off a win, Kentucky coming off a win, beating Toledo 24-16. Is Mark Stoops going to do this again to Ole Miss, or is Ole Miss going to be pissed off enough to get their revenge?
Okay, so that's where I stand, and I know it's going to happen. The Kentucky fans are going to come in the comments because they did it last year when we said that Kentucky was going to get blown out. They all hopped in the comments and called us a bunch of doofuses.
Well, I guess
saying that was going to happen. We were. And they're all going to hop in the comments and they're going to say, like, you guys said Kentucky was going to get blown out last year and you were wrong. I think Lane Kiffin's incredibly vindictive. I think he's one of the most vindictive coaches in college football. And I think that he knows that Kentucky loss screwed them out of getting to the college football playoff. And more importantly, I believe he's going to take that frustration out on Kentucky this week. This is the situation where he should actually do it. I think this Kentucky program got better from a year ago, but they still have a lot of issues, man. Zach Calzada was awesome at Incarnate Word. He was not awesome against Toledo. They had one of the biggest challenges out of any Power 4 team this past week. Toledo is a damn good team with a bunch of NFL guys on that defense. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren was all over the place making plays for that Toledo defense. And they couldn't move the ball through the air. 85 yards passing for Calzada. They did run the ball well, but it just does not feel like, once again, they're explosive enough to really threaten an opposing defense. And it doesn't help in a matchup like this where Ole Miss's athletes were starting to show up in that game against Georgia State. The one thing before I kick it back to you, Blake, I got to see Austin Simmons reel in some of the mistakes that he made. He made a couple of real first-time starter mistakes. I thought that he made some prolific throws, and the ball was just ripping off his hand. It was flying out of his hand. He was just getting it out super quick, decisively. He was delivering the ball to his guys to make plays. But the 2 picks that he had against Georgia State were frustrating, and they're picks that Kentucky absolutely will take advantage of. And we saw that last year. You make a mistake against Kentucky, they will slow the game down. They will put you in a rock fight, and they'll win the game that way. You can't turn the ball over against Kentucky ever under Stoops. I'm going to stick with Ole Miss to win this game, and I think that they're going to win it pretty handedly.
You always want to tame a dragon to act like a labradoodle. You never want to get a labradoodle to try to act like a dragon. What I mean by that is every throw that he made it with serious conviction. Sometimes a little bit too much conviction. And he got picked off twice. When I watched Ole Miss last week, I don't know what to really make of them, and I really have no idea what to make of Kentucky. And I agree with you that Toledo is a team that, well, Joe, I mean, a lot of people thought that could have been a long shot for the playoff in reference to the highest G5 team getting in. But that's not the worry for me with Ole Miss. I think Kentucky is not going to win this game. I'm with you there. Ole Miss gave up 191 yards on the ground. 191. I feel like I know Pete Golding well enough to know that he just didn't show much. They were in base a lot. They didn't do a lot of things special. But, Joe, they didn't tackle well in space. They didn't. Blake, we only gave up 3 points. What in the hell are you talking about? You gave up 191 yards rushing. You got to the red zone, and you were really locked down. And when Georgia State had to make throws, they were god-awful. But, Joe, the God's honest truth is that, quite frankly, they ran the ball all over them. 191 yards is 191 yards. I don't care how it comes. Again, it's week 1. But you're going to tell me that you had the first time in over a month to go hit somebody that doesn't wear your same jersey that you do, and you just defensively wanted to lay down? I don't know if I buy that. They were rotating in a lot of guys. I get what they're doing. I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all. You can't let a team like Kentucky that has no real presence on the outside, that doesn't want to throw the football, to do the one thing that they want to do. Run the football. So that's all that they have. They had multiple guys go over 75 yards. They had you're talking about Dante, who went over 129. McGowan went over 75. I mean, they ran the football all over Toledo. That's what they want to do. I get it's Toledo. I think Lane is that vindictive, though. I think that he has been circling this one for quite some time, and he wants to take it to him. I know that Austin Simmons threw 2 interceptions. I know that Arch Manning didn't look good, but there were some things on all of these first-time starters that I came away with a lot of positives. Austin Simmons is in that one. He's in that. And he got confused a couple of times. You can't get confused against Stoops. That's one thing I'm going to give him. He will confuse the shit out of him, or at least he's going to try to. You got to be prepared to not make those mistakes. If there's an avenue, last thing I'll say here, if there's an avenue for this game to be close, Joe, if he does turn the ball over like he did against Kentucky, they could make some things interesting if they play ball control and try to play really good defense.
Yeah, and here's one thing that if anyone remembers from the Ole Miss loss last year, I really was upset and bothered by how Lane Kiffin called that game. He, for some reason, abandoned the passing attack, he abandoned the run game and overemphasized throwing the football. They had way too many passing attempts in every situation.
In the rain.
No, that wasn't.
Yes, it was. In the rain.
Beginning of the game. I don't know if it rained the whole game.
I remember they got beaten. It was raining. It was drizzling.
I don't remember that the weather was.
It was raining.
My point is that I remember watching the game and watching Jackson Dart roam around on every single play. Nothing was open because they just dropped back into coverage and they were expecting pass. They have to get Kawan Lacey involved.
Talk about it. Showing.
He played really well, man. I think that he's a gifted player for what they need at running back. And it's the type of guy that they didn't have last year. It's the type of guy that they needed production from in their run game. He's got to step up. That is going to be, I think, the biggest trigger for their success is can a little bit of pressure come off of Simmons' shoulders, and can he have those big runs and those big plays in goal line situations like he did against Georgia State?
Well, they got to run the football very well for Austin Simmons. I felt like Lane went out there and said, we're going to give this kid as many reps as we can. Yeah. And Joe, I think they're going to go into Kentucky and try to run the football a lot. By the way, Logan Diggs made an appearance. I kind of feel like that they were keeping Logan Diggs out of this one coming off the injury. They gave him some carries, let him get hit a little bit. Lacey and Diggs, bro, that's some physical running. Some physical running now. And you give Lane Kiffin 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5 a lot, and you're going to get your ass whooped. You're going to get, because he's perfect when he's got a run game, because he confuses the shit out of you. You're right. The ultimate thing is, can Austin Simmons wear this thing down? But look, Dante and McGowan did run for a lot of yards, Joe. Can they keep that going? Will be interesting for Kentucky.
I just before we get here, I want to harp on the one thing.
-10.5 on FanDuel,
yes.
By the way.
-10.5 on FanDuel. I'm probably going to take Ole Miss to cover on FanDuel. I want to harp on this, though. I just think back to 2023, Georgia beats Ole Miss 52-17. That was one of the most embarrassing losses for Ole Miss. It derails their season. The year doesn't end as excitedly as it could, and they realized they needed to be super aggressive in the transfer portal. I really think that the way that Ole Miss showed us what they're going to do when they get revenge, how they beat Georgia last year, they put all their energy in beating Georgia last year. I think that we're going to get an example of that against Kentucky. I think he's going to try and beat this team by more than 10 points, and if he gets a chance to, he might even try to run up the score.
Well, but here's the thing. He's got to be composed. Because when Lane gets erratic, like the whole, Bama year, and he gets too much in his head. He tries to do too much. I felt like he actually tried to do that last week with Austin Simmons to some regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that if he gets a chance, he's definitely going to do that. Before we get out of here, let me ask you this question. You seeing all these people from Bama wanting to fire Kalen DeBoer?
I have seen this.
Okay.
And I found it very funny that Belichick, for a very brief second, was on their hot board.
Joe, this is insane, right? Like, I mean, what are we doing? They don't get it. They never have, because they've spent 2 decades with Nick. They don't get it. You're going to have these kinds of losses when a new guy's building a program.
I kind of, Blake, I'm sorry, but I actually kind of agree with this stuff. Dude,
Marcus Freeman literally had a loss to Stanford in year 2, and then the next
year one. That was year one.
Y'all lost 3 games in the second year.
It was year 1.
Then who did you lose to in year 2?
I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, but Stanford was year 1 with Drew Pine.
You lost to Northern Illinois last year. Okay, so hold on. That man coached for a national title at the end of the year.
Marcus Freeman is a first-time head coach and has not been a coach as long as Kalen DeBoer has. Kalen DeBoer was supposed to come in and set the tone, replacing Nick Saban. Nick Saban built the foundation that is crumbling. I'm not saying fire Kalen DeBoer, but this is a bad sign right now, Blake.
45 players transfer when Nick left. You can't do that when someone – why am I the Kalen DeBoer defender now?
Because when I buy into someone and they fail, it's flipping, man. I'm flipping.
Y'all
it's a culture problem, Blake. It's a culture problem.
No,
that shit needed to have gotten fixed.
They got their teeth kicked in by Vanderbilt, and nobody said this.
But that was year one. They lost in year two to a team that was 2-10 last year that shit talked them to their face.
All right.
That's
do you think that you literally said Florida State might be one of the top 3 teams in the ACC?
Forget. Okay.
Screw what they did a season ago.
No. Hold on a second, though. But still, for them to be as good as they were, they're better than we thought that they were. Forget that for a second. You got shit talked and you couldn't motivate your team.
Well, and you got shit talked because he said that Nick's not there to save him, and it's directly a shot at you.
That's my whole point. He didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Firing him is a bit much right now.
I'm not saying fire him. They're not going to fire him at the end of the season because of his buyout, but there's going to be a target on his back, man, if they don't make the playoff. And I don't think that they're making the playoff. I don't.
I feel like we're here again. Like when Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois.
No, they're completely different things. They're completely different things. Very different.
No.
He's not going to go 11-1.
Well, he doesn't play that light-ass schedule that y'all did. So.
Yeah.
See y'all tomorrow. Peace.